Tonight on SportsCenter, sweet music for the sports fan. 0 hour is almost here. Will there still be baseball?
I don't know whether to be optimistic or not optimistic.
Nebraska continues its #1 run against the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Could the captain be holding out for more quit on the Rangers? Danny's the man in Phoenix, but does that translate into a championship?
Well, it gives us 3 Dans.
Look who's playing hoops again in Chicago.
It was just confirmed that Michael Jordan will be playing.
Whoa! And Ralph, could Sampson be a Goliath again in the NBA? Starving for tennis action, Michael Stiek heads up the night action at the U.S. Open. We've got minor league fever, catch it, and a preview to another college football weekend. Take a leap forward with us. SportsCenter's next.
Hello and welcome to SportsCenter. I'm Jared Butler along with Dan Patrick.
Coming up on the big show, we will take you back to Lubbock, Texas for post-game interviews following Nebraska's impressive victory. We will also bring you the news from Madison, where the Wisconsin Badgers received a bad break on Thursday.
I think everyone would agree what we've been hopeful for is a break-in all day, the baseball strike. It has now been 4 weeks ago tonight since the last Major League Baseball game was played. And all that time, there have only been 2 face-to-face meetings between representatives of the owners and the players' union. But there was finally movement. The original movement was just getting the 2 sides back in the same city. Slowly, they have reconvened in New York. And now there is something new to consider. Waiting at the Hotel Intercontinental for something of substance are our Jimmy Roberts and Peter Gammons. They join us now with details.
As we arrive at the date that Bud Selig had initially set as a deadline, active negotiations between the 2 parties continue.
We do believe that the result of this has been that there is a concept that is worth discussing, and that was discussed very informally and generally last night at a brief meeting we had at the Intercontinental Hotel, the Peninsula Hotel. And then there were some brief phone conversations today, and we spent the day attempting to refine it and make sure that the numbers we were working with are right. And as I indicated before, we're still not entirely sure. We've got nowhere in these negotiations trying to figure out how much profit they want to make or some benchmark on player salaries in the form of a cap. So let's instead look at the motivating causes of the owners' revenue-sharing discussions, which is to say a number of clubs felt disadvantaged because of the change in the income streams into the game, and there was a desire to redirect some money. So the question is, how much and to whom and under what conditions? That's the sort of the generalized framework we tried to look at.
So the issue now resides with the owners. Really, late Thursday afternoon, the players took that framework, actually walked it across town to Major League Baseball's headquarters, and it now resides in the hands of ownership. Over Thursday night, owners are due to crunch some numbers and get back to the union on Friday morning, let them know whether there's any reason or not to meet on Friday or over the weekend. And Peter, we heard an awful lot on Thursday from Don Fear about revenue sharing, but what we didn't hear about was the specifics of what's in it for the clubs.
Well, I think, first of all, there's an acknowledgement that, yes, indeed, that the owners are trying to address a dichotomy between small markets and big markets, which really the players were not doing before. They're always going, hey, just mismanagement. Now they're saying, yes, we will have some give back, which will go from the big markets to the small markets. There may be pools in which they can take revenue out. And very important, the players said, okay, in this structure, now we have something we can negotiate. They did say, all right, we would allow a 5% luxury tax for big spending clubs that go above a certain level.
Aha, so the tax is not dead.
No, it isn't. It's not the 75% tax that the owners were proposing, but at least by putting it on the table, there's some way to negotiate, and they have some things perhaps to talk about, and maybe this will go further tomorrow. I mean, this is what Jerry McMorris and John Harrington, some of the big market owners, have wanted all along, a structure to discuss. Now we'll see if the small market clubs will go along with it.
It appears that there's far less posturing and a lot more actual negotiation going on.
Well, I think it's obviously, we're down to the last weekend. It's not going to be able to go much before beyond Sunday or Monday. I think they know now they have to just negotiate. But if this doesn't fly, I don't know where they go.
All right, so the next shoe is due to drop on Friday morning when ownership will get back to the union and let them know whether, in fact, there's anything at all to discuss. For Peter Gammons, I'm Jimmy Roberts in New York, and let's head back to the studio.
Reached Friday evening, Acting Commissioner Bud Selig said his deadline for calling off the season, which is supposed to come on Friday, still applies. We'll see. Most Major League teams had the night off originally. Only 5 games were lost Thursday. There've now been 356 wiped out, though, a combined $360 million between the two sides. And something else you may not have considered, with an average of 48 balls fouled into the stands each night, we are now more than 17,000 short in unclaimed souvenirs. Dan?
Danny Manning will take a $2.5 million pay cut this year to play for the Phoenix Suns. Manning, who made $3.5 million last year, signed a one-year deal worth $1 million. This salary slot was made available after center Oliver Miller signed an offer sheet with Detroit. Manning says money is not the issue.
This is where I want to be. This is my decision. I think in the long run it'll pay off for me. I have a chance to compete for a championship in the next few years, and hopefully for the rest of my career. Time in my career now where I paid my dues and I get to make a decision on where I want to play, and I chose Phoenix.
He made it clear that this is where he wanted to be, and this is where he was going to end up. He's waited a long time to play with a winner, so that's one more piece of the puzzle. I think he's definitely one of the top 20, 25 players in basketball, and to add him to our roster is going to make everyone else that much better.
Danny, what do you think of the addition of Danny Manning?
Well, it gives us 3 Dans unless they cut me. If they waive me, then I'll be playing golf and getting paid.
Well, they're not going to waive you because you waived Danny. I want you to waive me so I can play golf with him.
If you're wondering why Danny Manning was in uniform, he's playing in a charity game at Madison Square Garden. This is what the Suns are adding with Manning. This is what they've lost by subtracting Mark West and Oliver Miller. I've mentioned Miller signed the offer sheet with Detroit. Phoenix can still re-sign him, but right now highly improbable. They need the money for Manning. The Suns do not have a starting center, though. Joe Klein is on the team. The Suns have also reportedly spoken with 34-year-old Ralph Sampson. Gary?
To the Open, Michael Stieck may be the most versatile player in men's tennis, the only man in the 90s to win on all 4 surfaces. But when it comes to Grand Slams, he's Grand Slim. In his last 4 majors, Stieck's been slammed out in the first round. The German's one shining moment was when he won Wimbledon 3 years ago. But now he's the highest remaining seed at the Open, trying to reach his first Flushing semifinal against Sweden's Jonas Bjorkman, who has never won a tournament. But he is just 22 years old. First set, Bjorkman serving. He'll try to volley. Stieck with a pretty cross-court dropper wins the first set 6-4. Second set, Bjorkman trying the returns. But Stieck blasts the forehand winner. 6-4, 6-4. He is yet to drop a set in the U.S. Open. In a third, in a tiebreak now. Bjorkman trying to just stay alive and fend off elimination. He does it with a beautiful passing backhand to take the first set of the tournament from Stieck. Now Bjorkman again at the net. Stieck with the lob. Pretty backhand, but it wasn't in. Stieck advances. Takes him 4 sets, but he moves on. This is the only major he had yet to reach a semifinal in, and now he has done that. Bjorkman had more winners, fewer unforced errors, but the big advantage, 13-2 in aces for Stieck. In a matinee at Flushing Meadows, a pair of nobodies trying to become somebody. One of them, who became somewhat of a somebody last match, Jaime Izuga, who had taken out Pete Sampras. Now he's taken on Karol Novacek. Both of them were prone to errors. Back to the camera. Brilliant shot. Cross-court winner. Third set, 6-1 Novacek. Izuga took the fourth. Now we're to match point. Novacek blasts his 27th ace, and that was the difference in the match. There were fans snoring, yawning. In between the two, there were 151 unforced errors. It wasn't pretty, but it was good enough for Karol Novacek. In his 31st Grand Slam event, it's the first time he has ever made a semifinal.
Now to college football news, and it is not good news to report. The Wisconsin Badgers have lost leading receiver Lee Duramus. They lost him during Thursday's practice session 2 days before the season opener against Eastern Michigan. Duramus, who had a school record 54 catches in 1993, suffered a broken leg. Head coach Barry Alvarez said in a statement that it is likely that Duramus will miss the rest of the season. Duramus, who is a senior, suffered an injury during a collision in practice. He ranks 3rd in school history with 119 catches.
Threatening to join the growing list of hockey's holdouts, the best yet. Mark Messier would like the ultimate cup check. After carrying the Rangers to their first Stanley Cup in more than 50 years, then carrying the curse-breaking cup all over the country, the team captain would now like to fill it with cash. Having already lost their coach to a contract clause, New York's captain is now considering sitting out of Friday's opening of camp if the champs don't nearly double his salary. Messier's contract includes a clause that if the Rangers win the cup, he has the right to renegotiate his 5-year, $13 million deal. He now reportedly wants a 3-year, $18 million deal. Dan?
We are happy here at SportsCenter to tell you Winston Cup driver Ernie Irvan has been moved out of intensive care and into a private room at his Ann Arbor, Michigan hospital. Irvan's condition has been upgraded from serious to fair. Dale Earnhardt revealed earlier today that he received a phone call from Ernie Irvan Wednesday night. Earnhardt said Ernie sounded great.
Lots more to get to in the hour. Nebraska was just one of 4 top 25 teams with last weekend off, while top-ranked Florida scored 70 in their opener. But somehow, the Huskers shifted past the Gators in the bowl poll. Are they really that good? We come back. Their second straight matchup with a bowl opponent. Also coming your way in a minute and a half, we go on campus with Chris Fowler. The Hurricanes on the run with some blistering speed. We'll also drop in on Miami's pro team, whose greatest concern is stopping opponents' passing. And that's with good reason. And then later, Agassi ascending. We'll hear about his hopes for Friday's semifinals.
At the start of a new millennium, you think about life. And we thought about a steel spine in the new Mazda Millennia to keep the cabin exceptionally strong and life all it can be. The new Millennia from Mazda. As time passes, we'll all have some rough road ahead. So we built the new Mazda Millennia to have a smoother ride than even a Lexus ES300. The new Millennia from Mazda.
150 years ago, Mr. Levi Strauss made the world's first blue jeans. Today, they still sew a few Levi's jeans the real old-fashioned way. And those are the ones with the genuine red tab on the back pocket. They cost a little more because they cost more to make. But if you want the real thing, head straight for County Seat, the place to go for men's and women's Levi's red tab jeans.
Canada. It's a land like no other, with a beer like no other. Molson Ice, ice brewed by North America's oldest brewery to be bolder and bolder. It's smooth as ice. Molson Ice, from the land where ice was born.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Molson Ice, from Canada, the land where ice was born. By County Seat, the place to go for men's and women's Levi's red tab jeans. And by Mazda. Mazda. It just feels right.
Welcome back to the big show. Back to college football as promised, and the ink was barely dry on Nebraska's new #1 ranking when they arrived in Lubbock, Texas tonight. Texas Tech had just 4 days to prepare for the Cornhuskers, who had 11 days to prepare for the Red Raiders. Nebraska coach Tom Osborne wasn't buying into Tech's lack of prep time. He suspects they've been thinking about Nebraska for about a month now. A moment of silence before this game for Double T, the mascot killed at last week's game. Osborne and Spike Dykes chatting. And I think Tom was saying, watch out for number 15. I think he's a good one. Osborne watching Tommy Frazier. He's gone. 7-0 Cornhuskers in the first. Maybe the next great Nebraska running back, Lawrence Phillips. Phillips had a monster night, showing you some of his gifts on this run. Reversing the field, 28 yards. We'll get back to Phillips. Early in the third, the Red Raiders on Nebraska's 6. Zebby Lethridge to Scott Eilor in the back of the end zone. It's 14-9 Nebraska. Nebraska's running game dominated. Over 500 yards. Corey Schlesinger, 49 yards to the Red Raider 28. Cornhuskers would later score on the drive. And I told you we would get back to Lawrence Phillips. Phillips, 175 yards on 19 carries, including 56 here. #1 in your program, #1 in your depth chart. And Nebraska, #1 in your top 25. 42-16 the final 612 total yards. Of the 612, 524 came on the ground. The Red Raiders rushed for 147. They had 150 yards passing. Next up for the Cornhuskers, UCLA at home September 17th. It doesn't get any easier for the Red Raiders. They're at Oklahoma September 17th. Following the game, Dr. Jerry Punch caught up with Tom Osborne.
Thank you very much, Dan Patrick. We're standing by with Tom Osborne. And, Coach, a good win for Nebraska tonight. Not a dominating win, although you guys put up 500 yards and rushing against an 8-man front.
Yeah, I don't know quite how to evaluate it. I think Texas Tech probably has a decent football team. We'll know more next week. They play Oklahoma. We play UCLA. And we got one really good player hurt tonight, our safety man. That was a spot we couldn't afford to get anybody hurt. We needed to throw the ball a little bit better. We ran the ball well. I think our defense is good. We gave up a couple big plays, so I don't know what this all means. But I think we have a good football team. And who number one is, I don't know.
Coach, Tommy Frazier's rushed for over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first 2 outings this year. Everyone says he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. The kid's looking better and better each time out.
Well, Tommy ran the ball really well tonight. There's some things in our passing game we need to improve. You know, if we're gonna do well down the road, we got to be able to do both. But he's a great player, and we got some other good ones. I thought Phillips played well. A lot of guys, offensive line. So we'll just see how it shakes out. And we wish Texas Tech the very best now. I think they got a good team. I hope they play well.
Coach, but you said you were impressed with the defense in the kickoff classic. The offense had to impress you tonight, at least the ground game. We talked about the 8-man front, and to get over 500 yards on the ground against an 8-man front, they had sometimes 9 and 10 guys at the line of scrimmage. That's got to make you smile.
Well, it's like I told Mike Gottfried, when they put that many up there, you're going to have some big plays. We felt we'd have some big plays if they tried to crowd us, and we did. We had some that broke, and, of course, they did a good job on us sometimes. So, overall, we thought we played well. I don't think we played inspired football, but we played well.
Coach, congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go back to Gary Miller at SportsCenter. Gary?
All right, thanks, Jerry. The Dolphins are coming to Milwaukee's County Stadium for the first time in the regular season Sunday to face a Packer team they have never lost to in 7 meetings. But despite holding up the Pats last week, the Dolphins' D continues in disarray. Over their past half-dozen games, they're allowing almost 5 touchdowns an outing, 200 points, and this group is thinner. Injuries will force Brian Cox from outside to middle linebacker, and they're auditioning a lengthening list of long-toothed former legends, including Charles Mann and Brett Maxey. But whom they're most interested in is a pair of other high-impact free agent defenders. Leslie Visser is in Miami.
Don Shula's first words after the Miami Dolphins gave up 35 points to the New England Patriots were, "We have got to work on our defense." But what could be better than the acquisition of former Saints linebacker Von Johnson or cornerback Deion Sanders?
We have offers, Leslie, out to both players. We've had one out for some time to Deion, and I'm sure his decision is being held up by baseball. He's with the front-running Reds, as you know, and as long as there's a baseball season, I'm sure we're not going to hear about what he finally decides to do. Von Johnson, we've made an offer, and we're talking regularly, and we'd like to have him on our football team.
I would more than welcome Deion here. He's considered the best in the league, and for him to be here, and if I were to do well against him in practice, then I know I would have no problems with anybody else.
Is it a possibility that both Von Johnson and Deion Sanders could be in Dolphin uniforms on Sunday?
I would think that's highly unlikely.
The Dolphins say they will impose no deadline on Deion Sanders, but that he is serious about wanting to play for a Super Bowl team. They think it runs through the AFC East. In Miami for SportsCenter, I'm Leslie Visser, ESPN.
All right, thanks, Leslie. We'll see you on game day. Right now, only the New England team they lit up for 456 yards has been worse at pass defense, as the Dolphins continue to sink from a top-5 performance to open the 90s down to the bottom quarter last season when they were allowing more than 200 yards passing a game. Last Sunday, they gave up about twice that. As for Deion, while we wait to find out where Mr. Sanders will be playing football this season, we do know where he'll be playing a more serious game, in court. Last month, Deion was charged with motor vehicle offenses after he allegedly ran down a police officer with his motor scooter underneath Riverfront Stadium after a Reds game. Tonight, WXIX-TV in Cincinnati is reporting that the charges against Sanders will be upgraded to a felony, fleeing and eluding police. That would carry a maximum possible sentence of 5 years in jail and a $2,500 fine.
Still to come on the show, Michael is set to take to the air once again. With his baseball season over, Jordan is ready to hoop it up once again. We will tell you when and where. Also on the way on this big show, is your team shopping for a 34-year-old 7'4" backup center with suspect knees? 6 teams reportedly are. We will head north for Fred's round of putt-putt golf. Gary and I return in a moment.
Up, way up. That's what's been happening to cable viewership. At the same time, guess what's happened to network viewership? And the majority of those lost network ratings have gone directly to cable. Over 120 million viewers have found cable, and there's a simple way for advertisers to find them. Plug into the power of cable. America is cable ready.
Great action shot, full highlight. He just couldn't go off the way.
NFL Primetime, Sunday at 7 on ESPN.
Welcome back to SportsCenter. Michael Jordan has spent his entire baseball career, all of one summer, denying he would return to the Bulls. Even after his Double-A season ended, Jordan also had to deny he would take part in a charity event tomorrow night. But apparently the lure of being part of the building he made the most feared in the NBA and a favor for an old friend was too much to turn down. Michael has relented, and he will be part of the farewell to Chicago Stadium. But how much of a favor he's doing for Scottie Pippen is questionable. He'll be on the opposing team.
It's given me an opportunity to play against him for the first time in my career.
You gonna guard?
We'll see.
Guard right, he's gonna guard.
Michael's a great athlete, and I'm sure he's not going to come out there and embarrass himself. I think it'll be extra special, not just for me, but for the fans, the players, and everyone who came out to watch the game. And, you know, so many great memories in the stadium, and I think, you know, we can have one last hooray.
You saw the lineups. I hope whoever's coaching Michael's team keeps a watchful eye on Ernie Banks' minutes. Along with Jordan, another departed Bull will be there for the finale at the Madhouse on Madison, Horace Grant, as well as one of Jordan's original teammates, Charles Oakley. The game benefits Operation Push, and since this afternoon's announcement that Michael would be part of it, ticket sales, as you might imagine, have soared.
Ralph Sampson says 6 NBA teams are interested in giving him another chance at resuming his once promising NBA career. One team is the 76ers, whose coach and GM is John Lucas, a former teammate of Sampson's in Houston. Lucas will bring in Ralph for a 2-day workout beginning September 28th. Sampson played in Europe in 1992, spent last season as an assistant on Lefty Drizel's staff at James Madison.
Should the baseball season resume, the Braves will have 6 games to make up on Montreal and not much time to do it, and no John Smoltz to help. The former All-Star and playoff MVP had elbow surgery this afternoon. Struggling through a 6-10 campaign, Smoltz had sat out the last 2 weeks of the aborted season, hoping rest would help his ailing elbow. He reluctantly opted to have a bone spur and chips removed. He'll finish with his first losing record and ERA over 4 as a full-time member of the Atlanta rotation.
Nick Price has been spanning the globe for the past 12 months, searching for the constant thrill of victory. He has won once in Scotland, once in Africa, and 3 times here in the United States. This week, Price is hoping to add another paycheck stub from another country. The Canadian Open is being held in Oakville, Ontario. Swanson love. Bob Tway, third shot on 14. Just off the green and just inches from going in. Fred Couples on the same hole, 14 for par. Read the break perfectly, or did he? Freddie would finish at 2 under. Dan Forsman for eagle on 16. I would like for somebody to make a shot during these highlights, please, for eagle, and nothing but the bottom of the cup. Thank you, Dan. Go to the leaderboard. Mark O'Meara and Dick Mast are your co-leaders, but guess who is lurking? Nick Price is shot back. His round included an approach on the 16th that hit a rock in the water, bounced on the green. He two-putted for par, and then Price says, I quickly ran to the 17th. ESPN will bring you, the viewer, second-round coverage on Friday beginning at 4 Eastern.
We're back in 90 seconds. More college football highlights, including a Southwest Texas State player who was nearly knocked out in this game against Northern Iowa, then tried to single-handedly dismantle them. We'll also go on campus with Chris Fowler and a quarterback just getting started, Ron Powell.
Good morning, Marta. You see these people? They work for Gramercy Press, and their lives are about to change utterly. How? I can't talk about it on the elevator.
In the years to come, thousands of people will be protected because of a significant innovation from Volvo. Volvo introduces the world's first side impact airbag. Drive safely.
Love is strong, and you're so sweet. And someday, baby, we got to meet.
Budweiser, King of Beers, welcomes you to the Voodoo Lounge. It's an ordinary day at Gramercy Press. Books are getting edited, covers being approved, clandestine romances are clandestine, but the ordinary days are about to end. Why? Gramercy Press.
Northern Iowa upset Iowa State in week 1. Tonight, hooking up with Southwest Texas. About to show you a one-man team. Vincent Reed, seemingly out cold when his head crashed in to somebody's knee. Reed is down, but he would not be out. 2 plays later, Vincent Reed with the block. Donald Millard recovered for the touchdown. Reed's story is not done. 11 seconds to go. 20-19 Southwest Texas. Matt Waller. It is blocked. And guess who blocked it? Vincent Reed. And, of course, you got the hero dance. He deserved it. He may not know that he was giving that dance. Someone may have to remind him tomorrow. 20-19, the final in this one. Donald Wilkerson, he had 34 carries for 190 yards. As I mentioned, the Panthers had upset Iowa State in week 1, 28-14. Another action, Western Michigan, Western Illinois. It's a final, and it was not pretty. Jim Vaccaro, 9 carries, 111 yards, 2 scores. That's just first half action. Western Kentucky against Murray State. And the Hilltoppers are 2-0. Antonio Floyd, 149 yards. J.J. Jewell, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Every Thursday, we go on campus with Chris Fowler, covering every corner of college football. This week, Chris computerizes the quarterback at Notre Dame and tries to figure out who will volunteer for Colquitt in Knoxville, amongst other concerns.
Notre Dame has no clue how to play the game of football. Michigan comes to South Bend to give them a lesson. Relax, it is not a prediction for Saturday's showdown of Midwestern behemoths. It's a flashback to 1887, when this Michigan team took an overnight train trip to South Bend on Thanksgiving week, and underneath the spot that Touchdown Jesus now surveys, the Michigan lads taught Notre Dame the rules of primitive football on a muddy field with no stands or goalposts. Michigan won 8-0 on 2 4-point touchdowns. The great-great-grandparents of Ron Powlus were in their prime. The hype surrounding Powlus after one start is astounding, and it's not just Bino Cook or the South Bend Tribune. The folks in Silicon Valley agree. Powlus's rating in the new Bill Walsh computer game is 7th best in the country, based just on the preseason hype. Is Powlus ready for Michigan? Well, the little computer number 3 is. In a purely non-scientific test, Powlus went wild, throwing for 379 yards and 4 touchdowns. His 2 interceptions, which the little Silicon Lou chewed him out for here, almost cost the Irish the game, and so did 3 controversial pass interference calls. But Notre Dame held on 35-33, and it's just possible the 2 picks could have been operator error. Speaking of quarterbacks, Chris Ross, little brother of Steve, will start practice at Minnesota next week after transferring from Miami a couple of days ago with no hard feelings. He will be eligible for the Gophers next year when their top 2 quarterbacks will be gone. At Tennessee, with Jerry Colquitt out, you'll see plenty of Peyton Manning, Archie's son, and Brandon Stewart. One of them will have to be ready to start next year. Current starter Todd Helton is expected to be in minor league baseball this time next year. He won the home run contest at the Cape Cod League All-Star Game in July. This is the only baseball video you'll ever see in this segment, I promise. And last week we said look out for USC freshman DeLon Washington and Michigan's Timanga Biakabatuka, or Timmy B, as we like to call him. Both had 100 yards plus. Other new stars we like, both with great nicknames. Ricardo Rock Preston. He gives Florida State's first-team defense fits in practice. Did the same to Virginia last Saturday. In Miami's Alfred Froggy Shipman, a tiny but speedy guy, the fastest Hurricane with a 4.25 40 time. He gives Miami a much-needed big play runner. By the way, the Canes had their best rushing day since the Carter administration, 415 yards against Georgia Southern. Arizona State won't let that happen Saturday night with an 8-man front, but watch for the Canes to look downfield more. Many Florida fans are puzzled and some are just plain hacked off, but the Gators dropped behind Nebraska in both polls. Relax, Gators. Here's the explanation. Voters did not punish the Gators for their pummeling of New Mexico State. The first-place votes remain almost unchanged for both Florida and Nebraska from last week. But many pollsters who had the Huskers rated, say, 5th or 6th, moved them up this week, even though their victims in the kickoff class in West Virginia needed a late field goal to beat Ball State. No big deal. A lot of voting still to be done. And finally, they're scratching their heads in Maryland. After setting an NCAA record for most yards allowed last year, defensive coordinator Larry Slade was fired. Saturday, the Terps gave up 531 yards to Duke, and that's an improvement of 22 yards from last year's average. But Florida State is coming to town Saturday, so coaches polish up those resumes. And finally, the Mighty Dog coming off a victorious opening week. This time we like the Spartans, underdogs in their opening game at Kansas. I'm Chris Fowler on campus.
Chris phoning in the Mighty Dog. A full hour on week 2 in the CFA coming your way again Saturday morning at 11:30 on game day. Chris will be joined by Corso and James. Much more on Michigan Notre Dame. Also Penn State USC's matchup and a debate on that Florida fall in the poll.
Still to come on the show, we will head back to the U.S. Open where Robin Roberts looks ahead to Andre's next hurdle. We will also provide some postseason play in baseball between the Triple-A teams of the Red Sox and Blue Jays. Another slug-filled fest. That when we return.
Images presented by Honda. If the tension on the field becomes too much to bear, comic relief is close at hand. Now appearing at a stadium seat near you.
I built the entire city of Seattle on the roof of my car. See? There's the Space Needle.
Now, my car has wings, feathers, and a beak.
A little glue, a few seeds, just add water, and voila!
It's not what you add on to our car that makes it more fun. It's what you take off. The Del Sol from Honda.
When it comes to paint, we're making a name for ourselves because we make our own and guarantee its quality. That's Ace, the name to know for paint.
If the foot bone were connected to the head bone, you'd be wearing Wigwam socks. Wigwam, real comfortable socks from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Reality is in the mind. Okay, so today you're at the Bell Canadian Open. Now you have 4 days in the limelight to play against guys named Frost, Price, Couples. while you concentrate on your shot in front of a world that's silent. Take your time. We all live the dream. That's why we watch. Let ESPN show us the way. The Bell Canadian Open, live tomorrow at 4 Eastern.
More U.S. Open results. In men's doubles play, the third-seeded team of Jaco Elting and Paul Harhoes advance. That Netherlands pair will meet Woodbridge and Woodford of Australia in Friday morning's finals. In women's doubles quarterfinal play, the second-seeded team of Yana Novotná and Arantxa Sanchez-Becario, who both still have a shot at the women's singles title, took out U.S. youngsters Lindsay Davenport and Lisa Raymond. Only 7 players have taken out 3-seeded men in the U.S. Open, and now Andre Agassi is among them. But if he can add number 9 Todd Martin to his list, Agassi would become the first ever to claim 4 seeds. Amongst the record holders he would eclipse would be his number 1 fan's grandfather, Francis X. Shields, the first to nail 3 seeds back in 1930. For more on 1994's Final Four, including the even more surprising Karol Novacek, here's Robin Roberts.
For the first time since 1967, 2 unseeded players have advanced to the men's U.S. Open semifinals. Andre Agassi last night, and this afternoon, Karol Novacek ended Jaime Izaguirre's dream run. For Novacek, it will be his first ever appearance in a Grand Slam semifinal.
That was something what I was missing in my tennis career, to get a little further than quarterfinals of the Grand Slams. I won 13 tournaments, and I've been playing Davis Cup, I've been playing Masters, I've been playing everything basically what does exist in tennis, but I never went to play semifinal of the Grand Slams, and I did it today, and I'm very happy for that.
The National Tennis Center is still abuzz about Agassi's straight sets win last night over Thomas Muster, avenging his loss to Muster at the French Open. Agassi now faces the man he lost to at Wimbledon, Todd Martin. But revenge is the last thing on Agassi's mind.
When you get to the semis of a slam, who's in your way doesn't really matter, because whether they've beaten you before or whether you've beaten them or whether you've never played before, nothing matters except Saturday. And there's no feeling like being out there on Super Saturday, and I just can't wait to be there.
Agassi has been inconsistent this year, but working with Brad Gilbert finally started to pay dividends with the win at the Canadian Open in late July.
I think that's where I really feel like, geez, I can play some of the best tennis in the world. Stop doubting that and get out there and do it. And I think, Brad's really helped me with that. I mean, I wish I believed in myself at times as much as Brad believes in me, and because he knows the game, and he's been very important part of where I am.
Brad was nice enough to give Andre the day off. A day off as well for the women, and in just a bit, Betsy Nagelson will join me to talk about tomorrow's women's semifinals. Reporting from the U.S. Open, I'm Robin Roberts. For now, let's go back to SportsCenter.
Thanks, Robin. We mentioned Brooke Shields' granddad, one of the previous half a dozen Open players to knock off 3 seeds in the tournament. All but one of them made the finals. In fact, if Andre Agassi can follow this group, he's got a 50-50 chance of winning the tournament.
Back in 1977, Joe List Sr. took his final Major League cuts as a member of the Seattle Mariners. 17 years later, Joe List Jr. is taking his cuts as a member of Toronto's Triple-A club in Syracuse. On Wednesday night, List drove in 4 runs to give the Chiefs a 2-1 lead over the Paw Sox in the International League Eastern Division playoffs. They look for the clincher tonight in Pawtucket. That's Mike Twardowski. And Mike with the lazy fly ball. Alex Gonzalez, great range, should be routine, right? Well, it didn't turn out to be routine, but turned out to be an assist. Robert Perez not only makes the grab, but alertly gets up and doubles off Andy Tomberlin. Top of the 6th. Sox up 3-0. Sean Green, that's a 3-run homer. That would make it 3-3. 3 batters later, 2 aboard for Joe List. How many times you seen it? We talk about him, and he homers. Chiefs lead at 6-3. They rattled off 7 hits in the frame. In the 9th, 1 on for Carlos Delgado. Moment of silence. Gone. This one has not landed yet, as you'll see. Carlos keeps running around. 10-4, Syracuse takes the series 3-1.
We're coming back in 2 minutes. There is something Wayne Gretzky has never done on the ice, but he could get his chance if he's still playing in 1998. And the blitz is coming your way. Blitzing into your living rooms. You're looking ahead to Saturday's best matchups.
Here's a great reason to install Champion Premium Gold in your car. And this is what you can expect from the world's most advanced spark plug. Easier starting, quicker acceleration, better fuel economy, better idling, more power, longer life. Need more? Champion Premium Gold, the world's most advanced spark plug. It was forged from a spirit of strength, from a commitment to protection, and the unrelenting will to give you peace of mind. From the moment it goes on your door. It is Titan from Kwikset. Titan door locks, unbeatable strength, unbeatable security.
Polyshades by Minwax. It's a stroke of genius. Polyshades is rich stain and polyurethane protection in one. Polyshades gives wood a beautiful protective finish in half the time. Polyshades by Minwax.
Morning. Morning. I think you got yourself a shipment of gold, so you're taking a General A.
In the year 2004, time travel is a crime.
It turns out going back in time is a pretty easy way to make money.
Now, one man is about to take the ultimate power trip.
He's gonna be president.
But to enforce the laws of time.
Surprise.
One man is determined to stop him.
I never quit.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Ron Silver, Mia Sara, Time Cop, rated R.
Starts Friday, September 16th at theaters everywhere.
2 months ago, the Angels' backup catcher Chris Turner stole home at Fenway Park. The Red Sox and Boston Police are trying to find out who literally stole home at Fenway. Team Vice President John Buckley confirmed the rubber dish had been pilfered, but would not say when. Fenway does have 24-hour security. Be quiet. Don't wake them.
Now that the Dream Team has demolished international competition in 2 different forms, the Ice Age could be coming. Friday in Helsinki, Finland, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman and the president of the International Ice Hockey Federation are expected to announce a tournament featuring the top international players in the NHL. The Players Association of the NHL must approve a decision linked to ongoing labor negotiations. But if the tournament goes forward, it figures to be a first step towards NHL players participating in the 1998 Winter Olympic Games in Japan.
The Clemson Tigers hope to enjoy another alumni weekend this Saturday when they face NC State. The Wolfpack is coached by Michael Caine, Clemson's team MVP in 1976. On the previous Saturday, Clemson defeated a Furman squad led by former Tiger Bobby Johnson. For more on the Clemson-NC State matchup, along with the nation's other notable games, we're calling for the Weekly Blitz.
North Carolina State at Clemson. They're scratching their heads in Death Valley. Patrick Sapp took the first shotgun snap in Tigers history, and the sky didn't fall. New coach Tommy West is looking for more balance. But Wolfpack coach Michael Caine, a former Tigers quarterback, knows better than to believe in Air Clemson. This one should come down to the league's best kickers. State's Steve Vidatek is all ACC, but we like Clemson senior Nelson Welch, who's 9 for 12 against State. West Virginia goes to Rutgers' new stadium with a new quarterback. Chad Johnston is out. Eric Boykin is in after throwing for 248 yards against Ball State. Rutgers tailback Terrell Willis gets the pub, but teammate Bruce Presley has 2 100-yard games against the Mountaineers. If they get any room to run, then Rutgers gets the W. The Texas Longhorns have long memories of last year's rout by Louisville, but what they're really longing for is the return of suspended wide receivers Mike Adams and Lavelle Pinckney. They need them. The Longhorns' new 3-4 defense is susceptible to the likes of the Cardinals' Anthony Shellman. Still, take Texas. They've got more riding on this one. Let's go to the South and Tony Barnhart.
Tennessee at Georgia. A big game for Georgia's Ray Goff, who has never beaten Tennessee. The Vols will start Southpaw Todd Helton at quarterback, but if the future baseball star struggles, the 2 talented freshmen will play. The Volunteer game plan? James Littleman Stewart behind an offensive line as big as the Smokies. Tennessee will try to pressure Eric Zaire into mistakes, but expect Air Georgia to roll up big numbers again. Kentucky at Florida. Terry Dean ended the quarterback controversy at Florida last week with 7 touchdown passes in 30 minutes. But at Kentucky, Antonio O'Farrell gets only his 2nd start ever. The Wildcats want to run the ball, but they'll be frustrated by a defensive line led by Kevin Carter. Now, this game was close a year ago, but not now. The Gators go to 25-1 at home under Coach Steve Spurrier. Oklahoma at Texas A&M. Oklahoma has balance in quarterback Garrett McGee and 5 good running backs, but the Aggie defense and Brandon Mitchell will keep the Sooners in check. Texas A&M gets the edge with Leland McElroy and the home field, where they are 28-1-1 since 1988. Now let's go out to the Midwest and Gary Daniels.
Last week, Kansas put 518 yards and 0 sacks on Houston. To credit the offensive line, led by a starting tandem at guard for 3 seasons, Hesley Hempstead and John Jones. Great optimism at Michigan State. The key is at quarterback. Junior college transfer Tony Banks must come through. If he lays an egg Saturday, Kansas will win. Hey, is the running game finally back at USC? The tailback positions, Sean Walters and DeLon Washington, combined for 200 yards rushing. The first time in 28 games USC has rushed for more than its past. At Penn State, all their specialists return this season, but the key is at quarterback. Kerry Collins must continue his improved play. Remember last year, he outdueled Heisman candidate Keith Schuler in the bowl game. Saturday, he does it to Heisman hopeful Rob Johnson. Finally, 3 reasons Notre Dame will beat Michigan Saturday. Number 1, outside linebacker Matt Dyson is out for Michigan. Their 4th starter they've already lost this season. Number 2, Notre Dame simply does not turn the ball over. 10 turnovers last year in 12 games, none last week. Lee Beckton hasn't had a fumble in 2 seasons. And finally, the Michigan kicking game. It's the same as last year. Terrible. Now the West Beat and Gene Wojciechowski.
Ohio State travels to Washington. The Huskies won 24 of their last 26 games and 8 of their last 10 against Big Ten opponents. Key matchups? Well, that's easy. Last year, Ohio State held Napoleon Coffin to just 51 yards, his lowest total in 18 regular season starts. Do it again and the Buckeyes win. Meanwhile, Washington has to worry about 230-pound bruiser Eddie George, the rest of the Buckeyes running attack. With Joey Galloway on suspension, look for Ohio State to test a suspect Huskies defensive line. Miami has never won at Sun Devil Stadium. They've lost 3 Fiesta Bowls there, but all that changes Saturday. The Hurricanes have found a star in James Stewart. And unlike past years, Coach Dennis Erickson's going to stick to one guy in his one-back offense. Also, don't be surprised if sophomore phenom Jamie German sees the ball a lot, especially if Arizona State goes to an 8-man defensive front. New coach Ted Poner's no-huddle offense worked great against Navy last week. This week, the Aztecs have to face Butkus Award nominee Jarrett Willard. Good luck. And say what you will about quarterback Dave Barr, but the guy to watch in this game is junior tailback Bernard Rutherford. Cal coaches love him. And remember this, few programs stress the run like the Cal Golden Bears.
Thank you, Blitzers. ESPN will bring you a triple header on Saturday. We start with Bill Walsh, his 25th ranked Sanford Cardinal. Can they play any defense this year? They'll hook up with Northwestern following Northwestern's loss to Notre Dame. We sneak through the hedges for a good look at the Dogs and the Volunteers. Eric Zier, he burned South Carolina for 485 yards last week. Tennessee's quarterback situation not too steady, as the Blitzers talked about. Then we put the topping on our coverage with the Canes in Tempe. Miami is 0-3 in Tempe, but they've never lost to Arizona State. Those losses came in the Fiesta Bowls. Still to come on this show, what sport costs the most to bring your family to? That answer is next, and we will size up the Final Four on the women's side of the draw. A lot of other neat things.
It takes experience in personal injury cases to get a fair settlement. At Healy & Whelan Law Firm, we know the value of being well prepared, of studying all the facts, of conferring with experts. Your day in court isn't the time to discover your attorney is inexperienced or unprepared. So if you're injured in an accident that isn't your fault, give us a call. We've been helping people get a fair settlement for more than 60 years. We can do the same for you.
Healy & Whelan. Your first visit is free.
For a unique dining experience with authentic Chinese cuisine, dine at Hunan Chinese Restaurant. Hunan is the healthy choice for lunch or dinner, and you'll appreciate the oriental atmosphere. Hunan Chinese Restaurant, right here in Kearney.
Are you a local business? Are you having problems reaching your audience? You haven't tried cable advertising. We reach practically everyone from ESPN to MTV, USA to CNN, along with 6 more popular channels. We can deliver your message to just the right viewers. Cable or TV, only better.
This goes to ESPN. ESPN cuts right and takes the whole college football season and runs with it. Saturday, the Volunteers take on the Bulldogs, and the Hurricanes meet up with the Sun Devils. ESPN college football. It's inspirational.
Tomorrow night, an NABF Flyweight Championship. Danny Romero defends his title against Manuel Jesus Herrera live. Top Rank Boxing on ESPN.
A Chicago-based newsletter says a family of 4 will spend more dough on an NFL game than taking in a baseball or basketball games. The report based on a family purchasing average price tickets, 2 small beers, 4 small sodas, 4 hot dogs, 2 game programs, 2 caps, and parking for 1 car. 14-year veteran Mike Gminski won't be returning for his 15th season. Earlier today, G-Man announced he was retiring. Gminski will become a member of the Hornets radio team. During his 14 years, he played for the Hornets, Bucks, 76ers, and the Nets. The G-Man scored just under 11,000 points in his NBA career. You want more hoop news? You got it. The Hawks close to re-signing unrestricted free agent Craig Elo. The 33-year-old guard played in all 82 games last year for Atlanta, averaging 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Let the ball go in. Okay, Gary.
Back to the Open. The men now step aside while the women decide who they'll send to Super Saturday. It's almost certain to be Steffi Graf in the final, but Jana Novotná has had some past success against the world's best player, and there was another former Open champ in the Final Four. For more on the women's semis, Betsy Nagelson joins Robin Roberts.
On Friday, the women will again be the center of attention here at the Open. As expected, Betsy, the 2 top seeds advance to the semifinals, but their opponents somewhat of a surprise. Top seed Steffi Graf will go up against Jana Novotná, and immediately last year's Wimbledon final comes to mind, and it seems that collapse has become Novotná's trademark.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jana Novotná, because she's one of the really truly good natural serve and volleyers. She struggled this year with some injuries, so it hasn't been one of her best years, but she comes in here playing some of the best tennis she's played in a long time, and she has a really good chance to redeem herself from that Wimbledon final.
Well, not many secrets between these two. They have played 23 times over the last 7 years, with Steffi, though, winning the last 9.
Yeah, I think their head-to-head is a little bit misleading. There was a time when Novotná won back-to-back matches against Steffi Graf, the end of 91, the beginning of 92, and then 5 of the next 6 matches went 3 sets. Novotná held match points in 2 of them. So Steffi Graf realizes she's a very dangerous player and will have to really play her best to beat her.
You know what? In the quarters against Mary Pierce, Novotná changed her strategy. Normally she attacked, but she stayed behind the baseline. I don't think she can pull that off against Graf.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, she realizes she will have to attack consistently. She'll try to use her heavy slice and approach the backhand side of Steffi Graf and try to get in as much as she can. She'll have to work the point around. It's not that easy to get in against Steffi, but she knows she needs to get into that position to win points.
In the other semifinal, number 2 seed Arantxa Sanchez-Vicario will go up against Gabriela Sabatini. And Betsy, is Gabby playing as well as she did in 1990 when she won here? And what does she have to do against Arantxa?
Well, there are parts of Sabatini's game that she feels is much better than when she won it here in 1990. There are other parts that still need some work. Her serve continues to give her some problems, especially when she doesn't get her first serve in. But she comes in here, reaching the semifinal. She comes in with confidence. So she likes her chances, I'm sure, in the semifinals.
And these two know each other quite well, having played 21 times. Sanchez-Vicario, though, winning 6 of the last 7.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, their head-to-head again is kind of interesting. Sabatini won the first 7 matches that they played against each other, and then they split the next several matches. And as you say, Sanchez-Vicario has been pretty dominating in the last 2 years against Sabatini. In fact, they did play each other in the semifinals of the Australian Open just this year, and Sanchez-Vicario won that one pretty comfortably.
We'll have to wait to see what happens tomorrow. For Betsy Nagelson, I'm Robin Roberts from a very windy U.S. Open. Let's go back now to SportsCenter.
Amongst the missing from this year's Open field, a teenager many thought was ready to challenge for Grand Slam titles, but instead, Jennifer Capriati's game slipped almost as suddenly as she burst on the scene. Her emotional, physical, and social struggles are far from unique for teens trying to adjust to touring the world as a professional athlete. This evening at the Open, the Women's Tennis Council announced sweeping changes based on recommendations by an age eligibility council. The ruling basically eliminates 14-year-olds from tournaments other than satellite events, and then there's a graduating scale of involvement until age 18. We've got more to come on SportsCenter. We'll go calling all stars, some of the week's greatest plays and players, including that 49er.
Come on along and head for the
mountains of bush beer. Head for the mountains, it's cold and it's smooth. It's waiting for you. Come on, head for the mountains of bush beer.
If the foot bone were connected to the head bone, you'd be wearing Wigwam socks. Wigwam, real comfortable socks from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Soft leather, fine wood, acoustic perfection. Front row seats. The experience of beautiful music has always been enhanced by a rich atmosphere. Acura. Some things are worth the price.
You can become a football legend.
Me? A legend?
Enter ESPN's Football Legend Sweepstakes. If you win, you're on the sidelines of 4 ESPN Sunday Night NFL games. You'll join Chris Berman at ESPN's NFL Game Day Studios.
You are a legend. Thanks, Chris.
You get $10,000 in a commercial on ESPN. And best of all, you get to bring 3 friends everywhere you go, including the Super Bowl. Yeah! ESPN's Football Legend Sweepstakes. Stay tuned for details. Sponsored by Savan, no wrinkle cotton clothing.
We have reached the point where we must go calling all stars. What would the U.S. Open be without Andre Agassi? A tournament of no names, an unseeded player, Agassi has turned the tournament on its head, including Thomas Muster last night. Agassi here in the near court. Moving on with momentum as he heads into the semis against Todd Martin. And then the week started with brilliance. Jerry Rice, the only team he had not scored against was the LA Raiders. He scored against them 3 times, past Jim Brown, and the season is 1 week old.
Calling All Stars is brought to you by Mobile Link. It's the simple way to communicate.
Fellow travelers, life's a journey. Our friends and colleagues, lovers and loved ones. Is it all part of a bigger picture? What connects us to each other? Well, Mobile Link. Only cellular service that has Mobile Link makes it easy to connect with everyone, no matter where you are on that cosmic interstate. Even if you don't know where you are.
Make sure your local cellular service has Mobile Link. Call 800-995-4000.
One of these engines was filled with Castrol Syntec, a synthetic oil, the rest with conventional oils. They were then drained and started without oil to prove a point. You see, Syntec has a unique molecular structure that bonds to engine parts. Lab tests show it leaves a layer of protection far stronger than conventional oils. And if Syntec protects this well now, imagine if you leave it in. Castrol Syntec protects in ways other oils can't.
We've got Panasonic.
We've got Emerson. We've got RCA.
We carry the Michelin XGP4s.
Pennzoil, Quaker State. We got a lot of stuff.
We have Magic Chef. We have GE.
We have the Compact. We have the IBM. We've got Proctor Silex, Sunbeam, Westbend.
40 feet of jam boxes alone. Fantastic rods of nearly every size. There we go.
And we have Conan the Adventurer. You got screwdrivers, power drivers. You got
Everything in the world, man, could want.
And let me show you one more thing. Just one more thing.
Unlimited sports news is finally available. Bob knows.
Morning, Bob. Your email yesterday, dead on. The Dodgers pulled it out last night with some 12th inning heroics.
With ESPN Net on Prodigy, Bob talks to the SportsCenter pros every day.
Hey, Bob, for answers to your NFL questions, check out the inside info on coaching changes.
What you want, when you want. Call 1-800-ESPN-PRO. Get ESPN Net on Prodigy.
Hey, how about some Super Bowl tickets?
SportsCenter is brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always Walmart. And by American Honda, who has been making quality cars in America for the past 11 years.
No more Mr. Nice Guy. I was going to ask you to watch, now I'm going to demand it. Game day, prime time. Do not start your NFL Sunday without Chris. I can't go through the list of people that work on that show, but watch it, please. Game day and prime time.
And listen to this, news and notes. Jeff Gillooly is going to boot camp. If he serves 6 months there, he can shave up to 18 months off his sentence. Chris Dudley's going back to court. There's a trial in New Jersey determining the eligibility of the NBA one-year opt-out contracts. One quick note, baseball strike talks. The players have presented a proposal to management. They'll mull it over the evening and decide, give an answer to it on Friday morning. I'm Gary Miller.
Dan Patrick coming up, the 1993 49ers yearbook, and then half hour after that, Roy Firestone goes up close with Joe Montana. Good night.